Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. This is the weekly Roundup premium video. Hopefully you enjoy the content. Now today was an interesting day because not only did Bitcoin put in a new all-time high, but it then actually had a pretty nice pullback. I mean, if you go to the hourly time frame, which I don't imagine many of us care about that much. You can see that it pushed up to about 69K or so, and then following it had about a 10% correction, almost a 9% correction. Um, and look, if it falls back below the zero point 0.5 risk level, then I would buy again. Okay, but until then, I'm fine continuing to focus most of my DCAs on Ethereum. I've been saying that for the last month and a half at this point. That I think that Ethereum makes the most sense at the current time, but it makes the most sense coming from the reference point of having spent a majority of the 5 months before that accumulating Bitcoin, right? So that's where it makes the most sense. If you don't have Bitcoin, then I wouldn't say that it necessarily makes the most sense. You should probably get Bitcoin and ETH, but I'm focusing mainly on ETH just because I'm happy with where my Bitcoin is after spending 5 months accumulating it. Now, the risk level on Ethereum, one nice thing about this pullback that Bitcoin had is it's dropping the risk level on ETH. Okay, and I, as you guys know, I just DCA Ethereum up to zero point 0.5 risk. So as long as they're below 0.5 risk, I just continue to DCA. I said at the beginning, actually, I think I even said back in mid-September that I hope that we have the entirety of Q4 to DCA ETH below zero point 0.5 risk. Like that's what I hope. Okay, I hope that it doesn't have a breakout above the zero point 0.5 risk level until 2022. Now, will it likely break above zero point 0.5 risk before the end of the year? Yeah, there's a decent chance it will. But so far, we're almost halfway through the fourth quarter and it still remains below zero point 0.5 risk, which again, I would still consider an opportunity on the macro scale. Again, we will have pullbacks and whatnot, but I still would consider it an opportunity. So I would DCA Bitcoin if it went down to zero point 0.5 risk. In order for it to do that, it would need to drop all the way down to about 58,472. So it'd be a pretty sizable drop for Bitcoin to get to that level. Obviously, from the current, I guess it's not really that big of a drop for it to get there from the current prices to get back down to say like 58, 58.4, 58.7 in there. It'd be about another 10%, 9% drop or so. So it certainly is possible, right? It certainly is possible, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it, right? The other thing we want to talk about, total crypto risk has pulled back a little bit, which is nice. Again, I DCA crypto as long as it's below zero point 0.7. We're at 0.587 right now, so I'd say it looks fine. It's not the lowest it could be by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also at least not getting too heated. Okay, and we don't want to see it necessarily go to the zero point 0.9 risk level yet. I imagine there are a lot of people that wouldn't mind continuing to accumulate for a while. And look, even if you're not accumulating with dry powder, because I know some people, they've put in all they want, consider the staking interest that you're hopefully getting, or if you're lending crypto and whatnot, if you're getting rewards, that adds up. And so the longer we just kind of stay at these levels, I think ultimately the better. As far as I'm concerned, I would just love it if crypto just sort of hung out around 0.5 risk forever, right? What does that mean? Well, in order for it to stay at the 0.5 risk level, the price has to continue moving higher, right? You guys see it. If Ethereum just keeps slowly moving up, but not quick enough to get above the 0.5 risk level, then I just keep buying ETH. And I don't see any problem with that because it means the valuation of my ETH portfolio is going to continue to grow with time if it just keeps staying right below 0.5 risk. Because again, the price of Ethereum has to keep going up for it to stay right around the 0.5 risk level. All right. So I'm still doing 70% into Ethereum each week. That has not changed. But I did pick up a little bit more ADA. Okay. So you should know that. ADA is kind of getting to that point. I don't know if it's going to break out right at mid-November or not. This was a line I drew a while back, but I did speculate back then that this was the earliest I would see a breakout by ADA. And note that this line is more or less triggering when I think the breakout to a new all-time high could happen, not to break out above this white line. If we're above the white line here, it still doesn't mean anything until we put in a new all-time high. Like imagine ADA did something like this, where it breaks out, that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it needs to go to a new all-time high. sometime between this area is what I'm looking at. So I actually did pick up a little bit more ADA recently. It is a 0.363 risk. And, I mean, it's coming in at around $2 or so. So, is it kind of hard DCAing it up from where it was like about a year and a half ago at 2 cents? Yeah, it is. But again, if you never buy anything up 100x, you essentially just never buy anything in crypto because most things are up 100x or more, right? So DOT, I would still remains a buy up to $60. Note the Polkadot parachain auctions are launching, and so if you're looking to join some of those projects, just remember that you are locking up with them, but then you'll get the native tokens of that project, right? So you would get the native tokens of that project, but then you're sort of relinquishing your ability to just move your DOT around and whatnot. But you are getting something in return, of course. Just make sure you pick out projects that you're okay riding out for a couple years. And I've gotten a lot of people that ask me, does it make sense? I would say that for a percentage of your DOT, yeah, it probably does. But I wouldn't lock up all of your DOT because you want some of it likely earning interest, right? Earning rewards. And DOT is the main one, right? I don't really necessarily, I only consider Bitcoin and Ethereum blue chips, but in terms of like the Polkadot ecosystem, DOT would be the blue chip there. And then you have all the other ones that are trying to run on top of Polkadot's network. So I wouldn't say that you should just go put 100% of it behind these projects. I think that it makes sense to put a portion of it. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of that. I've gotten people that ask me that question. They say, well, should I just keep earning interest on DOT, 12% APY, or should I go put everything into these into the crowd loans, right? And I've said before, I think that it's okay to do it with a portion of your DOT, okay? But to do it with all of it, I don't think necessarily makes the most sense because you would like to have a little bit control, I think, and earning 12% on your DOT. I mean, don't underestimate 12% on your DOT and how valuable that could be if it continues to appreciate with time. Okay, so just manage your risk accordingly there. Some of it is probably fine. To do everything, I don't know that makes sense. So I still think DOT is still a good buy. I know the risk level is above 0.5, but remember the risk confidence is still relatively low, so take it for what you will. AVAX, AVAX continues to be a champ, right? And this is one we introduced on the channel at around $12 or so. Now it's at 86. Look, I still have high hopes for AVAX. I think the platform they have, their network is growing. They also have all these DeFi incentives and whatnot, and I like that they're one of the more decentralized projects. Okay. So I'm still a big fan of AVAX, and I have high hopes for it, and I will continue to just hold it. And people ask me, what are your strategies? As I've said before, with DOT and AVAX, I'm just holding them. I haven't traded any of them. I just sometimes buy them. I haven't sold any DOT or AVAX the entirety of the market cycle. My AVAX is locked up until May, right? I mean, if you guys want to go earn rewards on your AVAX, go for it. We have the ITC stake pool, of course, and you guys can go earn rewards. Mine are locked up until May, so I can't even do anything with it until then. So it's kind of irrelevant what it does in the short term. Solana is still at a really high risk level. Solana is extremely centralized, which is why it's not in my top positions. I know a lot of people would argue that it should be, but it is there. I mean, it's around 238 right now. Will Solana continue to go up during the cycle? Yeah, likely will. Just like BNB, just like a lot of the other L1s. Luna, as you guys know, I have this one in my portfolio now as well. Matic, still DCAing that one, but actually this week I actually went a little bit heavy on ADA. Okay, so I went a little heavier on ADA this week. A similar amount into Matic, but a little bit heavier on ADA this week than I have been recently. I still don't own any of these projects. I told you guys like a week ago I liquidated my XLM position, my Monero position. Again, it's just because they're just bleeding against Ethereum, and I understand that they can pump in the short term and whatnot, but that's not really what I'm interested in. I'm looking to just consolidate the portfolio to have fewer coins, to not have so many coins to worry about, and I still think it makes sense, right? I mean, you can see they've just been bleeding anyway, so it's not like I've been missing out on anything there. Now, from here, I said I'm going to keep an eye on these, and I still will keep an eye on them. Maker, Celsius, and Uni. they have been bleeding against Ethereum, which is why I have my eyes on them in particular. But I haven't traded them. I still have them. I'm sort of waiting. I'm hoping that one of them, at least a couple of them, might break out at some point against ETH, and then I can make a more powerful trade back to Ethereum. Still haven't done that yet though. So there's Algo. I haven't been DCing this one at all recently. XRP is I do have, again, I have a small position in it, but I haven't DC'd it in a long time. VeChain, I think it's a good project. Risk on it's 0.419, so if you wanted to go up to 0.5, you could. BNB is probably gonna I'd say BNB is probably going to go up as well, and the risk level is a lot lower, 0.365. This one is one I haven't really had in my portfolio historically, but as I mentioned like a week ago, so I now have it, and I have high hopes for it. Like we'll see where it takes us. The reason again that these aren't in my top is just because they are extremely centralized, right? They're extremely centralized, and I prefer to not have them be so centralized in my top. Of course, even DOT is pretty centralized as well, but hopefully they get that worked out. So let's go take a look. So Bitcoin right now is at, you can see it had a pretty nice correction here all the way down to below $63,000. Right now it's at 64,820. I would say nothing's changed, right? Nothing's changed with the plan there. ADA, it's approaching where I would think the breakout zone would be. Ethereum continues to just be in vertical accumulation. I don't really have a better terminology for it other than just I think it's in accumulation mode, even though it's going up, if that makes sense. It might not make sense, but that's kind of, again, that's just the best way I can describe it. Could it, I mean, will it likely fall off this trend line at some point? Yeah, it probably will. But the point is, it started all the way down here at 2,800 and it's just been slowly moving up. So to me, it just seems like it's in vertical accumulation, and it looks pretty healthy. The main thing that I think would put a rain on Ethereum's parade is if Bitcoin keeps correcting. But note, in this most recent correction by Bitcoin, the Ether Bitcoin valuation actually gained a little bit on, you can see the last day or two. It actually gained a little bit. So Ethereum continues to look really strong, and is why I'm personally still going 70% into Ethereum. Okay, I want to talk about some of the stocks as well, because these are some we talk about. So Coinbase stock, it did take a pretty big hit, and I said, this is one I'm looking to buy the dip on. Okay, now is it going to come all the way back down here? I hope not, but I am pretty bullish on Coinbase Ventures, as well as some of the other things they have going on. I do think Coinbase will continue to grow with time. I think part of the reason this came in like this is just because the earnings report wasn't that great. But remember, it was for Q3, which incorporated July and September. Not really the best months for crypto. So I think it could be some sell-offs because the earnings report sort of missed their target. But I still think they will grow with time. So Coinbase is one that I do have, and I will continue DCA. Tesla, as you guys know, it took a pretty big hit recently. And this, of course, is after a major run up to $1,200, all the way down from $500. So it's still up, 2x since May. So it's really still a decently up. And this is still one I recommend people have in their portfolio. And again, if you don't believe me, as I've said before, just go look at the Tesla Bitcoin valuation. And I mean, you can see that Tesla pretty much is keeping up with Bitcoin. It's an oscillator against Bitcoin, and it gives you some diversification. So I would still say Tesla is a decent one to watch. Another one, Lucid Group. I first started talking about this one on the Telegram channel at around $20, 27, I think 27 maybe was the first time. I don't know. But you can see it's had a pretty nice breakout since then, and now it's at 41. I do think Tesla should be a much larger position, but if you're trying to get some exposure to EVs and whatnot, this one would provide a more risky option. But I certainly would go heavier into Tesla. The other one that I mentioned in the Telegram group earlier is Rivian, and this one launched today, in fact. Okay, so it's even hard to know. I mean, you can see this is what happened at launch, right? It had an immediate push up here, and then it's been sold off a little bit. I am going to get a position in this one, but I'm going to wait a little while to kind of see what happens. I'm not in a rush, right? I mean, if it goes up, it goes up. I don't really care. I just want to wait probably a couple of weeks before I make a decision on this one on what I want to do. So I am watching this one. So just so you guys know, if you're looking to get a position, I am going to be looking to get a position in this one because I do think it's worth getting a position in. Okay. So the dollar is something we should probably watch. Okay, because it's been sorry, I'm still under the weather. The dollar has been doing fairly well recently. As you guys can see, it actually broke above the 100 week. Now we're above the 200 week. Not really that surprising to see Bitcoin down today. Also seeing the stock market down about a full percent. The dollar's going up. We know if the dollar goes up, it's typically not good for stocks or for crypto. So, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully it doesn't get too carried away. And I would still argue that Bitcoin still looks relatively good over the macro scale. Remember, I would expect this cycle extending into 2022. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm kind of losing my voice. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. See you guys next time. Bye.